The EXO-U is the latest and greatest addition to Reate's Reate OTF family, featuring a removable utility edge instead of a regular knife blade. My version has a distressed green aluminum chassis, and it also comes with a deep carry pocket clip, plus this pretty cool magnetic safety toggle. However, my Reate EXO also has some pretty serious downsides that we have to discuss, so I can't wait to show you the way this thing works, including swapping the blade. Hey everyone, welcome to Salvo EDC. The Reate EXO-U is such a well-timed product, as utility blades are living their renaissance right now, so most big brands release their own designs to capitalize on this new trend, and in comparison to competitors, Reate definitely came up with one of the most interesting utility knife chassis on the entire knife market. And we got all this for only about $70, which is extremely affordable. I always wanted a knife that is mean and green, and with the Reate EXO utility blade, I finally got one. And I'm so happy Reate did something like this, because I really love vibrant colors. Usually, my tactical gear is either black or desert brown, so my EDC collection could really use some variety. And if you also like fun colors, you should keep your eyes peeled, because they are dropping brand new combinations all the time. For example, this zombie green that I'm holding is a fresh one. The fit and finish on this knife is absolutely gorgeous. Reate did a real good job anodizing the aluminum chassis, and I really enjoyed that they added these extra grooves in the corners. Plus the overall shape of this knife also does a great job at countering the slippery nature of aluminum. This way Reate gave us only the pros of this material, that are gorgeous colors, lightweight, impact resistance, and rigidity, which is very advantageous if we consider that the knife has an out of the front, also known as OTF action, and such a mechanism goes really well with the aluminum because it takes the beating exceptionally well. This is why so many automatic pocket knives from Microtech or ProTech come with an aluminum frame. However, the Reate EXO family is a tiny bit different since it's operated by gravity instead of a set of springs. To open the knife, I first have to split the two main pieces of the frame. That releases this oversized stop pin, allowing the blade to slide out on a set of rails. This construction gives the knife a whole set of unique features that clearly has both advantages and disadvantages. The biggest pro is that the Reate EXO is super smooth and extremely fidget friendly. It definitely competes with a butterfly knife, but it requires way less skill or motion, which makes this knife super addictive to play with. I probably didn't have this amount of dumb fun with a pocket knife since I bought my very first button lock. Another huge pro going for this locking mechanism is that because of its engineering, it is extremely strong and reliable. So to break this knife, we literally need to smash the entire frame. And even if the lock fails for any reason, the blade still has only one way to go, which is back inside the chassis, unlike many other fidget-friendly folder knives that have the potential to close on my hand. This design philosophy makes the Reate EXO an extremely strong, reliable and finger-safe knife, which is a huge deal for me. And the cherry on top that this mechanism also looks extremely cool when the magic happens. So seemingly this knife ticks all the boxes except two giant things. First and foremost, the entire Reate EXO family is super illegal in most countries, and even in a couple of US states, because knife regulations usually restrict OTF knives, gravity knives, knives with one-handed operation, or knives with magnetic locking mechanisms, which is honestly speaking, the gayest shit I've ever heard. And the second big problem with the Reate EXO, that it is prone to blade play. Since OTF knives in general have a wobbly blade, I would simply call this the nature of the beast. However, the gravity action on top of this removable utility blade makes the Reate EXO exponentially worse compared to any other OTF knife I have ever handled. I mean, just listen to this. And I'm not saying that Reate messed this knife up, I think they did an outstanding job. This construction just simply has its own limits. And just like any other product, Reate's EXO family went through a lot of evolution. The very first EXO knives Reate released were not even utility blades. They came with a Bowler Almox blade steel, and they were biggest 9-inch long knives with a titanium frame, and they came without any pocket clip or locking mechanism. So even though they were extremely fidget friendly and everyone loved them, they were not quite fine-tuned enough for EDC. So based on this feedback, Reate tried to please the fans, so they started experimenting with a whole bunch of pocket clips and locking mechanisms, and probably the only thing they could nail so far is the pocket clip, which now works fine. One generation ago, I remember that it was still garbage, because the hardware they used for it had such a large screw head that it prevented a fabric sliding into the clip, which is now solved. However, this locking mechanism thing is still not super great. In fact, this magnetic safety toggle is pretty garbage. It is genius in some ways, but the implementation is not okay. Partially, I like the idea, because the chassis itself is aluminum, which is a non-magnetic metal, and for this reason these magnets work pretty well, but the way this toggle was engineered leaves us with two pieces of soft aluminum grinding against each other, which is definitely a weakness in the long run. Plus all this is held in place with a super fragile, tiny little screw that lives in this super finely threaded, soft aluminum hole, which means that I'm definitely not taking this thing apart, because aluminum is infamous for stripping. So I wish instead of experimenting with some Jedi shit, Reate just picked a much more robust and reliable locking mechanism. As a good example, let me pull up my full auto EX5 by Hogue Knives, a badass tactical folder that comes with a snappy action and a much more reliable two-stage tactile locking mechanism. And if we look at the two safety toggles next to each other, we can discover that Reate also did an inferior job hiding the internal parts behind the switch, which is definitely not a good thing, because this way dirt can jam up the knife way more easily. So I hope they will eventually correct this magnetic lock thing. And if I'm already complaining, I will quickly bring up another issue that I don't like about the Reate EXO, which is the way you can switch out the blades, because in my opinion it is not safe at all. And who knows, maybe I'm just too clumsy, so I quickly remove and reinsert the blade, just to show you what I'm talking about, and hopefully not die during the process. Okay, so before I started rolling this video, I practiced changing the blade like 10 times, but I'm still very uncomfortable doing this, because this spring is very unpredictable, and 5 out of 10 times I just sent it flying across the room. This side is a lot weaker than the other. The fuck? And rest of the cases, I almost cut my finger off. So I think Reate should definitely improve this solution, but only after they revisit the locking mechanism. This weirdest mounting solution is also a big problem, because it removes my option to choke up on this edge. But if I do, I can easily unlock the spring and eject the blade. And this is painfully bad for me since I have large hands, and without choking up on the edge, this knife just feels too small and I don't have a good enough grip on it. On top of that, it also places my hand way too far from the cutting edge. That makes my cuts with this extremely wobbly blade a lot less precise. And at the end of the day, this spring is the #1 downside that actually kills the EXO-U for me. I understand that it has a lot of advantages. For example, changing the blade this way doesn't require additional tools, but this trade-off still sucks because it makes the knife unsafe and less functional. With all that said, I don't necessarily think that the EXO utility would replace my other OTFs in the long run. I had a real great honeymoon phase with the gravity action, but the blade is still too wobbly, the cutting edge is too far, and the construction of the magnetic lock is not future-proof. So I found myself returning to my oldie but goodie Microtech EXO set, a rock-solid knife that comes with a super slicey double edge and none of these issues. I already posted a review on this knife, so if you're interested, come check it out. I also invite you to watch my video on the Hogue EX5 that has a gorgeous design, snappy action, and a super sturdy construction. Thank you for sticking around all the way, and I'll see you in the next one.